this might be single-handedly the most important video I've ever been released on. I don't know about that. Today I'm going to tier list 10 popular language learning methods from 1 to 10. 10. So without further ado, let's get into it. We are here with
Hi.
to rank 10 popular language learning methods by tier list, which I always love watching these type of videos. So it's kind of when I get to make my own. So on my screen in front of me are podcasts, rewriting, immersion, teaching, language exchange, music, apps and websites, flashcards, rereading, and watching. If any of you guys watching have just one of those days where you wanted to break everything and then something literally broke on you?
Instead of putting literally doing what I do, you to clean all out the broken glass.
Okay, so I finally have the tier list open. You can see here are the 10 categories that I mentioned, and as I mentioned as well, we are going to rank from S tier all the way to D tier. A, because it's easily understandable. B, because I'm too lazy to change it. C, because I'm too lazy to change it. Oh, did I say I was too lazy to change it? So let's start. Should we start from the start? Nah. My eyes, and I'm gonna put my mouse along the cursor of the screen here. So I think it landed closest to apps websites. So I'm gonna start from there, and then I'm gonna go. You see, like left to right still, from flashcards, reread, watching TV, movie, then back to podcasts. So number 1, thanks to my very inventive, completely original method of choosing so, are apps and websites. So if you want to know about what apps and websites to use for learning Korean in particular, I have a video on that. I'm just that smart, I'm just that good, I know, round of applause, I know, so original. So apps and websites, I want to talk about my experience with learning Korean with apps and websites, because that's where I've used apps and websites most for language learning. But I think a lot of these points can be applied to general language learning as well. So apps and websites are mostly free from my experience. Obviously it depends on the app. Some of them have paywall features. Actually, I think most of them have paywall features. But I find that a lot of the apps and websites I use, because I'm broke, they tend to have like a good amount of it free, because if they didn't, I probably wouldn't be using it, let's be honest. So apps and websites I think are great for budget for that reason. Mr. Cuppy Cup agrees. I must sit like a lady. Because they can they can closely do the job of what books do, but for like a fraction, if any, of the cost. Plus a lot of language learning websites are really convenient to access, and their visual interface is so handy and easy for people navigating the website to use. Instead of like flicking from like chapter to chapter in a textbook, lots of times in language learning websites they'll have specific tables put to the side of this. If you like this, then this, if you know what I mean. Kind of like the YouTube algorithm. That's when I think apps and websites really come in as one of the handiest tools you can have. They also are great as a sort of multidisciplinary approach to learning, because they can encompass speaking, like Tieda, writing, there's Hangul apps to practice writing, grammar, vocab. About 99% of language learning apps out there will have some form of vocab and grammar. I'll count YouTube as like apps, television. As I said in my last video, the way I learned Hangul, they obviously taught me the Hangul, but they also gave an example, like the example I used in that video, in ORNG. Very simple. The disadvantage to apps and websites is that can kind of pay what you get. Like, you kind of get the free experience because sometimes you can look into an app or website and you could immediately understand why it's free. They market it for people who want to start. They're obviously trying to attract new learners of the language, which is obviously great. But because of that, they don't tend to have as much detail as something like a textbook would. And of course, with apps, you don't have the guarantee like you would with textbooks, well, most textbooks anyway, of quality. So for that reason, I'm going to put apps and websites in B, if it will let me. Here we are, yes. For the reasons I mentioned, like, they're very, very convenient, but they have some drawbacks, like quality. You can't guarantee the quality. So I'm going to put them in B, but they're probably like a B+. I'm not going to be too pernickety with the tiers over here. So next, oh wait, where was, I forgot where it was. I think flashcards was next. So flashcards, I've talked about how much I love using flashcards in, I believe, both my past two videos. So as you can tell, I'm going to put flashcards up in S tier because they utilize active recall and spaced repetition learning methods, which basically is, for me anyway, is the best way for information to actually stick in the brain. And that's kind of the most important thing. Like, you could write for 3 hours, read for 5 days, but I find that unless you're actually getting the information to stick in your brain, it's all a bit worthless. So flashcards, I find, really help the problem of, like, being lazy. Like, you have to, well, you don't have to technically, but with flashcards, you have to interact with the material, especially because you can flip them around. You don't have the convenience of having the answer right in front of you, whether you have digital or physical flashcards. So I really find it's kind of like your mother in terms of language learning. Like, it's not going to spoon feed you. It's going to give you that push. So for that reason, flashcards, definitely S. Let's see if anything else will join it. So next we have rereading, which I think is kind of like a worse, you can make it like a slightly worse version of flashcards, because you can interact with it in the same way. Like, you can kind of like, you can read a sentence and try and memorize it. But I find the flashcards, I find with flashcards that I just find it easier. Maybe it's just there's less on the page. I think maybe like having like a note fill a page and just having learning the one sentence, I think that can kind of, the other sentences still kind of affect your nerves. Alright, so I have a somewhat disappointing update to give. My laptop was really starting to act up from where I last left off, and I was afraid that I was going to actually lose all my hard work after all the failed attempts. So I decided I just need to get these slotted quickly into the opinions that I think they will be. But I'll still have like an element of surprise aspect of it. I'll try my best anyway. So the ones we mentioned here that we've already kind of talked through have been flashcards, rereading, and apps and websites, I believe. So we're going to go on to the next thing in the A tier, which is immersion. So if you haven't heard of what immersion is in terms of language learning, it's basically fully immersing, like creating like an at-home, like fully immersing style. Like only speaking, I'm just say Korean because that's what I'm learning, like only speaking Korean, only watching, reading, using materials in your target language. Like, for example, I think you can like write your shopping list in your target language. Maybe like if you're using like kind of anything that you would do in your daily life in your native language, your native language, you would swap it out for your target language. There's plenty of language immersion videos on the internet. I'm thinking of filming one myself because I think it would be interesting to try out. I haven't really gotten a chance to do this properly, but I'm going to list the reasons now why I think it is a great language learning technique. First of all, again, it's a multidisciplinary thing. It tests all your language skills. Like if you're talking to a friend in the target language, for example, and you're getting new vocab, you're picking up the sounds of the language on your ear. I think it's also great because it provides you with a nice focused language learning approach, because you're not trying to like juggle other responsibilities in your native language. Having the focus on your target language really gives it a time to shine, and I think can really be a great tester of your abilities to see, are you able to come up with like Korean words for situations on the spot. Where I think it can go wrong if you're not careful is that you can get burnt out. I wouldn't recommend, maybe not even for, like I wouldn't recommend immersing yourself like at like an A1, like raw beginner level. Like I've learned 2 words of Chinese, let's like fully immerse myself. Because you're not going to have the vocab, you're going to get stressed, you're going to lose confidence in yourself, and you're going to be more likely to give up. So I think, well, one way you could do that, which can be quite costly, would be going to like a language school, like a university program for a year or something like that. But again, that costs, people are working in school, that's not a viable approach for most people. I think you really have to be careful with how you immerse yourself. For tips on how to do it, I'm going to film a video myself soon enough, and then I'll give you some tips and tricks on what I've learned. So the next thing I have here is language exchange. There's some obvious problems with this one. Well, depending on how you do it. Like there's plenty of language exchange apps out there, which can be very helpful. You can find people who actually want to learn your language as well, language exchange. And you can make friends if it all goes right, but you have to be very, very careful because it could all go wrong as well. Because like a lot of people aren't on language learning apps to, let's say, learn languages. So unfortunately, it's not particularly a viable way to learn languages, strangely enough, because you would expect it, a language learning app. But so you have to be very, very careful. Again, you can see like scams, like if someone's telling you, oh, like, can you give me money, then we could like go meet or something like that. Obviously, do not do that. Do not give money to anyone on a website really of any kind, unless you really, really trust them, you know them, you've met them in person. I mean, I'm not exactly like a health and safety promotion officer, but that's my 2 cents about it. It's great because you're learning stuff that, like, for example, it's really great that native speakers in the language would actually use. Sometimes you can struggle, like, if you're learning something and you think like, oh, is this actually used by native speakers in this language? That language exchange apps are a great way to test it out, because you can use like AI features, but I think AI can be wrong, and getting the answer from real humans I think is a better solution in this case. Ooh, my mouse. So next is teaching the language to someone else. So in this case I more mean so like getting your notes and like teaching your sister or your brother or something like that, not like actually like becoming a language teacher. Though you could do that too. I haven't really tried this myself because like obviously people around you are going to be busy and I'm busy too. It's a great way because if you're teaching it to someone, I think it can summarize it down to like the bare basic points that you actually need, so you don't get caught up in too much fluff. But I mean, there is teaching degrees, I guess, for a reason. So some people like may not be able to gather which points are teachable and which points aren't. And again, people are busy, so it can be harder to be be able to do this method and may be more energy exhausting than some of the other methods I've listed, but it seems like a very helpful technique. I'll try it if I have a chance. So the next thing I have here is rereading. I try to put them into one. If you're just doing them by themselves, I don't think it's brilliant because mentioned online, it's a very passive form of learning. You could just be looking at stuff. Like I could look into a camera. And I would be more knowledgeable about like camera angles, for example. Like looking at like a paragraph about the weather isn't going to make you more knowledgeable about the weather in your target language. You really have to, I know it's kind of the painful thing about it, but you really have to engage with the material. Either make it into flashcards, which is what I would do personally, or even just in your head, try like, I'll learn off one sentence and then I'll learn off another sentence afterwards, something like that. I think just doing those plainly isn't really going to do much. So that's why I put them into C. Podcasts are, I think, a great, really language-focused, good approach. They're great for listening because you can hear, well, if it will probably be native speakers. You can hear the pronunciation, you hear words that they would actually use, somewhat similar to a language exchange in that sense. So I think podcasts are a really, really brilliant and cost effective, and they remove the risk of what you would have if you use language exchange apps, for example. So again, it's more of a passive form of learning, so I wouldn't use podcasts as your main form of learning, for example. So that's why I put them in C. But they can be really handy if you use them the right way. And finally, for D tier, I have watching TV movies. You may wonder why I put this below podcasts specifically, but I think like watching TV movies, there's a bunch of like vocab that's not actually going to be used in like real life. And I know people would like know this exactly for like historical TV shows being used in the historical dramas is obviously a lot different to Korean used in real life, and different words that are used for like dramatic emphasis, like in Korean dancing, which means you are hardly ever used in actual Korean life. Plus, it's not really to do with language itself, but it can give you like unrealistic like ideals of what the culture is actually like, which can develop, like, as people would say, like for Korean, Korea-boo tendencies. I'm not saying that that's going to happen to everyone, obviously not. I watch dramas. I do not consider myself a Korea-boo. I'm obviously very Irish. I say "car" like that. And then I put music at the bottom because music is great. I love music. You love music. We all love music. I find with music, it's similar to TV dramas. Sometimes there'll be words that are not often used in real life. Thank you so much for watching this video. I know I have no mic. I'm very sad about it. I had my light stand come today, but alongside the light stand, I'd actually ordered some new mics to supplement my old mics. So I can't wait to see you guys when I have these new mics. I shall be a new person.